So today we're continuing with algebra and we're looking at basic equations. So you'll see here, no, that's out. Here on the side, I wrote some notes that we looked at before. So we've got, if we've got plus and minus signs, then we basically have to add the like terms. If we've got times, then we first look at the sign, then we look at the variable, then we look at the number. So we're going to do, oops, I'm on the outside. We're going to do some more about these today. And then brackets means times. So yes, you learned before that brackets basically says you need to do this first and then this. But it can also be just grouping things together, saying, look, we need to multiply this. And then we've got equations. So linear equations has no exponents, and we need to get x by itself. Then we're going to do quadratic equations, but only a little bit later, which has exponents. We have to get equals 0 and then factorize first, and then get x by itself. So I also wanted to remind you of this one here. Make notes as you go along. So I'm going to show you, and I want you to get into the habit of making the same notes that I do every time when you're doing maths. Not just when I'm showing you, not only with classwork, but also in your tests and exams. It is important that you teach your brain how to recognize things. Learning maths is not just about you understanding maths. It's also about teaching your brain how to recognize things so that when it gets something in a test, instead of in that stressful situation, instead of looking at it and going, oh, I can't remember, you go, you know what I do know? I need to make these arrows like that. And then your brain goes, oh yeah, I recognize this. I have to do this next. And then as your brain recognizes it, you don't have to do as much thinking in order to just remember everything off by heart. So let me quickly go and write down for you. So what is algebra? Algebra, we're basically working with x's and y's in our maths. So first of all, we need to learn how to calculate with algebra. So that's this bit that I've got here. How to plus and minus, how to times. And then we're basically, so we need to plus and minus, we need to times, we need to divide. And remember, dividing is basically fractions. I know you hate fractions, but I'm sorry. Then, the other thing we need to be able to do is exponents. And then all of these things comes together in equations. Oh, I forgot one. Hold on, there's one more. Factorizing. So these are all the tools that we've got to use when we're doing algebra. So sometimes we'll have to do this, sometimes that, sometimes that, sometimes that. But the main thing is that we're trying to get to is to solve equations. And then this, solving equations, later on is going to bring us to graphs. Okay, and then we can also use solving equations basically in anything we need, in geometry, in trigonometry, which only comes later, don't get scared. And when I say later, I mean like grade 10, 11, 12. So grade 9s, 8, 9s, you're fine. So all of this is basically algebra. So last week we looked at this part, how to plus and minus. Right, now I want to take this, plus and minusing, and show you how does that work with equations. So, it's the basic equations is looking at something like this. Okay, so let me first put it like this. What does the word equations mean? It comes from, here we see the word equal, or almost the word equal. So it has an equal sign in it. The sum that they'll ask you, like how they'll ask it for you in a test or exam, is they'll say, solve for x, or y, or z, or whatever, the variable. We need to figure out what the variable is. And in order to do that, we have to use these things. For today, we're just going to use this one. Okay, so let's say we've got x plus 4 equals 7. Okay, so we need to get what we want our answer to look like. Is we want our answer to be x equals. Okay, that's like I said here, these linear equations. So there's no exponents and we want to get x equals. So what we need to do is we need to take everything over to the other side so that we've got x all by itself. Some people get confused with this. The easiest thing to do is to actually go like this and draw a line there. Say, this is the one side of the equals and that's the other side of the equals. And I'm only going to, so all of my equals is going to be here on this line. And every time I do something, every time something crosses this line, it has to change. So the first thing over here, I said make notes. So we want to see which terms are loose and which ones belong to each other. So this is one term and this is another term. We want to get the x alone, so make arrows. The reason why I say make arrows is because as soon as you do that and you see it crosses this line, then you know I need to change stuff. So the format in which I write this is also important, and it's important that you keep doing this stuff in the same order so that your brain gets used to it. So the x is going to stay here. The 7 is going to stay there. So first write everything that stays. Now the 4 is moving to the other side. So the positive becomes a negative. And we've got the 4. Okay, so now let's work it out. X equals 7 minus 4 is 3. And there is our answer. That's that. So it is important that you make yourself notes as you go along so that you don't forget what you are doing. Let's do another. Let's say 3x minus 2 equals 2x minus 12. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do, step for step, I'm going to show all the terms. So there I've got an x, there I've got an x, there I've got loose stuff, there I've got loose stuff. Just by the way, I'm just saying loose stuff, but this is called the constant term because it doesn't change. The x might change, but this doesn't. I'm just going to call it loose stuff because it's the stuff we want to chuck to the other side. Okay, so we have this one needs to move that way. And this one needs to move this way. So that all of our x's are together on the same side. So I'm going to write my equals. I'm going to see, what do I have? I have a 3x. What am I moving? When I move it, I change the sign. Minus 2x. Okay, let's look at the other ones. Here, what do I have? Minus 12. What do I move? Negative 2 so it changes to a plus 2. So now we've got that, we've got that, we've got that, we've got that, signs changed, sharp. Double check your work as you go. At least at the beginning, as soon as you get used to it, you're going to see it's going to get easier and easier. But especially in exams, rather take the time to actually check that you did everything right, rather than rushing and losing the marks. Okay, now we're just going to add the like terms. So all the like terms, all these ones are together and all those ones are together. So now we're doing this one here, like terms. So we've got 3 minus 2 is 1. 1 what? 1x. And here on this side, we've got minus 12 plus 2, which is minus 10. Okay, so this one, we don't really need to write it there. We can leave it out if we like. It makes no difference. 1x, x, exactly the same thing. And that is our answer. Alright, there's not much more complicated that we can do with very basic equations. So let's move on. In the next video, we're going to look at times and divide, and then we're going to solve equations involving times and divide.